From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
Hey there, SportsLine on your television. Steve Layman here with you. Glad to have you with us tonight on a busy Tuesday night. The major story today, this morning, the Titans announcing through owner Amy Adams-Strunk that she is parting ways with general manager Jon Robinson, effective immediately with 5 games left in the regular season. This despite the fact that the Titans are 7-5 and on the verge of clinching a 3rd consecutive division title and getting back to the playoffs. It is a truly shocking development that everybody around the NFL took note of today. We talked a lot last night about Titans talk and about the disappointment of the game in Philadelphia, losing 35-10 on Sunday, and about the big game that A.J. Brown had and the disaster that was the Robinson trade. That said, this is truly stunning to me. The only thing I really compare it to, honestly, is the Brown trade itself. That was a night during the draft where I sat there when I started to get word about it that they're not really doing this, are they? And then it became official, and it was mind-blowing at the time. And I thought, if anything is going to get Jon Robinson fired, a guy who at the time had 6 straight winning seasons under his helm since taking over as Titans general manager, that's the type of trade that would do it. To lose the goodwill of trading away a star like that, if you don't continue to win at the same level and have the same type of product, that's the type of deal that puts you on the hot seat very quickly and maybe leads to your termination. I just couldn't fathom the idea that it would all happen by Christmas. And here's why. Jon Robinson is perhaps the most important person to what has been the Titans rebuild. He was Amy Adams-Strunk's first real significant hire. She made the decision to keep Mike Mularkey after making him interim coach when she fired Ken Wisenhunt. But in terms of going out and finding a new person to come in and help her run the Tennessee Titans, Jon Robinson was her first big choice. He's a guy who grew up in Union City, Tennessee. This is his home state's professional football team. He said on day one that this was his dream job, to be with the Titans and to try to win a Super Bowl here. He took over a team that was in the midst of a 5-27 stretch, 2-14 and 3-13 in 2014 and 2015. They were the worst team in the league in both of those seasons. And Jon Robinson comes in and immediately in year one puts a winning football team on the field. In 2016, they went 9-7. The culture was immediately changed. He's never had a losing season, and it doesn't look like this one is likely to be that. Titans are 7-5 right now. They're going to be significant favorites in at least 3 of the final 5 games. They're going to win the AFC South and get to the playoffs and have a home playoff game. Robinson in total, 66-43. If the Titans do in fact make the playoffs, it will be their 5th playoff trip. They, of course, got to the AFC Championship game in 2019. This will be their 3rd consecutive AFC South division title. And last year, they were the #1 overall seed in the AFC with home field advantage in the bye. And it was incredibly disappointing that they weren't able to capitalize on that last year. And it has been disappointing this season to see that they're not the same team. And we talked ad nauseum about that last night in terms of the impact of the absence of A.J. Brown for this team. It's not just the yards and the catches and the production, but it's about what he means to everybody else on the field. And it was a miscalculation and it was a mistake. by Jon Robinson to trade A.J. Brown away. And I think Sunday, that loss, watching Brown torch the Titans in Philadelphia up close and personal, as Amy Adams-Strunk does every Sunday, I think that solidified it. I think it was the final straw for where the Titans are going to go. Robinson has had some missteps. His blunders in the draft have been well documented. He drafted the offensive lineman turned rapper Isaiah Wilson, who isn't even in the National Football League anymore. He drafted Caleb Farley in the next first round. Farley has been a non-factor for the Titans in 2 seasons. He's missed on guys like Darrington Evans. I don't think Dylan Radins has panned out as a second-round pick. He has an entire draft class in 2017 that none of them made it to a second contract with the Titans. Not one. Too many of his draft picks have not been factors and not long-term solutions. And so he's had to go into free agency more often than you would like, and some of those didn't work out. Vic Beasley, Josh Reynolds, maybe Robert Woods right now. Several guys on the offensive line. And then, of course, there's a trade for Julio Jones, which did not work out and has hamstrung the Titans financially in terms of what they're trying to do long term. But the A.J. Brown trade was the trade, to me, that symbolized the closing of the window for a championship team right now with the Titans. Through the missteps in the draft and the misfires in free agency, the Titans last year were the number 1 seed in the AFC. They had home field advantage. They clearly were a contender last year. They didn't cash in on it, but they clearly were a contender. Trading A.J. Brown changed all of that. Because all the holes, the lack of depth, the lack of quality up front on the offensive line, the lack of depth at wide receiver, the injuries, all of that gets magnified when you don't have his presence on the field. And that, to me, is ultimately where Robinson is right now. But this also symbolizes a real change of power within Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. It is Amy Adams-Strunk's team, no question about it. She calls the shots, and she ultimately has the final say on the direction. That said, she made Jon Robinson the guy when she hired him as general manager. And ultimately, when he thought it was maybe in their best interest to part ways with Mike Mularkey, despite winning 9 games for a second straight season in 2017 and winning a playoff game in Kansas City and getting to the divisional round, she decided to make the move. And so Mularkey was out, and she aimed higher. And at the time, I was stunned by that she would fire a playoff-winning coach, given where the Titans had come from. It seemed like it would be a whole lot easier with a new hire to tread back into the water of the Ken Wisenhunt days of futility than it would be to go and get a guy who is automatically going to take you higher. From 9-7 to 10 or 11 or 12 wins and a division title and more playoff berths and ultimately a Super Bowl. They went out and hired Mike Vrabel. And they proved me wrong on that. Vrabel's come in and done a magnificent job. Back-to-back 9-win seasons, trip to the AFC Championship game, 11-5, AFC South champs, 12-5, AFC South champs, number 1 seed in the playoffs. He's done a great job, and at times with a limited roster in trying circumstances. And what this signifies to me is the complete shift of the power. Because it was all Robinson, to the point that he was able to get a coach fired and bring his guy in, which was Vrabel. And the more Vrabel was around and had success, it became more of an equal footing over there, where it felt like both Jon Robinson and Mike Vrabel had equal say in a lot of the orders of business at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. But Robinson had the final say with player personnel decisions. And this move today now tells me that it is Mike Vrabel's team completely. He's going to have more say in the personnel and the roster. He's going to have more say about what this team does in the offseason, what they do, and who they select in the draft. He may not be the general manager and coach, but he's going to have veto power, which he didn't have before, and Amy Adams Strunk is giving that to him. She's saying this is no longer a partnership. This is no longer Jon Robinson's team. Certainly, he's out. Mike Vrabel, this is on you. And he's earned the opportunity because he has been phenomenal as a coach. But we've seen some coaches out there who've been great as coaches, not so great at buying the groceries that they end up cooking the meal with. And we'll find out how good Vrabel is at that through this process. But it's on him now. But the timing also makes me wonder about what else is going on. Because there's 5 games left in the regular season, and this is a team that is in first place by multiple games. Yes, they've lost 2 straight games. But they're 7-5. They're going to win the division, and they're going to host a home playoff game. It is a bizarre time to get rid of a general manager who won 66 games in 6+ years and got you to the playoffs 4 going on 5 times. But that is the move the Titans made today, and it has rocked the NFL. And the message within the locker room should be clear as well. Even though they're right in the middle of this season and they're on pace to win a division, it is not okay to just win the AFC South. It is not okay any longer to just get to the playoffs. The expectations have been raised through Robinson and Vrabel. You got to win in the postseason. You got to compete with the best teams in the league. And so that's the mission for the current Titans team. And if you don't do your job, or if you don't do it well enough, you could be gone, just like Jon Robinson is. I think the only person safe over there right now is Mike Vrabel. It's understood how good he is around the league, and he's going to have an opportunity to coach and maybe direct this thing through the choppy waters here as they try to move into the next phase as an organization. But it wasn't that long ago that the only person safe in that building was Jon Robinson, and now he's out. Long term, I think what this tells you as a Titans fan, Amy Adams Strunk is committed to winning big. She wants to win the Super Bowl with the Titans. She hasn't been able to do it. Her family has not been able to do it. This team has not been able to do it. And she wants to bring the Lombardi Trophy home. And if she feels like the team is stagnating or that they're not going to be able to take that next step with whoever is in charge, she is unafraid to make that move and to make the tough calls. And from a fan's perspective, you should take heart in that. Because there was a while here in Tennessee, certainly at the end of Bud Adams' life, that it was unclear that ownership of the Titans was willing to make the tough calls, the hard decisions that it takes to sometimes win in the National Football League. That is not the question anymore. In 7+ years in charge, Amy Adams Strunk has made all of the hard decisions, and most of them, after the fact, the decision was the right one, and her next decision was a better one. We'll find out if that is the case here, but she made a tough and difficult decision today, and she was decisive. Probably quicker than I or just about anybody else would have made it. But her message is absolutely clear that this is not about the division. This is not about winning seasons. It is about one goal, and that is finding a way to ultimately win the Super Bowl. Our phone lines are open tonight, 737-7767 number. Your thoughts on the Titans' decision to part ways with Jon Robinson. Our phone lines are open, and we get to your calls. When we come back, this is SportsLine on News Channel 5+.